Okay, so this lesson is called An Introduction to Eastern Philosophy. Eastern philosophy and Eastern religions are vast, okay, overwhelmingly so. And so for the purpose of this 200-hour program, 300-hour program, 500-hour program, whichever track you're running on, okay, we're going to be focusing our attention on three philosophies, three Eastern philosophies that are also religions. So it's Taoism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. And out of those three philosophies, religions, we're going to be focusing on very specific group, a very specific, I guess you could say, sect of those three different philosophies / religions. I say philosophy / religion because we'll take Taoism as an example. Taoism is the umbrella term that refers to the indigenous religion, practices, and philosophies of the people of China, okay? Taoism was there first. It was a shamanic practice. And that we know as a philosophy, the philosophy of the way, as we've been talking about in this training, Wu Wei, the concept of yin and yang, duality, non-duality, the great Tao, the void. You know, these are philosophical concepts that were developed later on in Chinese philosophy, which what we know as Taoism. But there is a religious Taoism too, that has priests, has temples, has gods and goddesses, has ceremonies and rituals and sacrifice. I don't know if they do sacrifice, like animal sacrifice, or if they just do fruits and breads and drinks and things like that. It doesn't matter. There's an entire religion that is Taoism, okay? So you'll have the philosophical side and you'll have the religious side, and the trying to differentiate them all gets really, really blurry because you're talking about an entire culture, okay? You're talking about a culture. Same thing in yoga, okay? Same thing in Hinduism. Specifically, we're going to be studying Vedanta. Now, where does Vedanta come from? It comes from the oldest written literature in the entire Hindu library of spirituality, the Vedas. The Vedas were originally written a very, very long time ago by those rishis, by those shamans, and by people that were singing praises and hymns to the gods and goddesses of Hinduism and performing ritual sacrifice and ceremony and everything like that. So the Vedas, from the Vedas came the Upanishads. And the Upanishads are kind of like the philosophical core of what all of these things mean, what the Vedas mean. And so you do have yoga philosophy, and then you have people who are religious in Hindu, because in Hinduism, there's many, many different paths. To be on a yogic path means, well, you can practice good karma. Karma yoga is a kind of practice. Practicing good karma, that's a good way of assuring for yourself a positive rebirth and reincarnation. Then there's someone else who chooses bhakti yoga, which is a devotional yoga. They devote themselves to a particular deity like Krishna or Shiva, and they put their direction in the worship of that deity, and that's a form of yoga. Then there's jnana yoga, which is the study, the philosophy, the Brahmanism, the priesthood that comes along with those studies. So in Hinduism, there are many different paths on the road to spiritual awakening, and there's so many different ones, there's no way that we could cover them all. But the one that we're going to cover is Vedanta. And Vedanta comes from the Vedas, they come from the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, and the Bhagavad Gita. You bought the Bhagavad Gita, which is going to be one of the religious texts that you will read and you will write papers on later at another time. But the Swami that I have chosen to present material, he's a great guy. He's based in New Jersey, an American who studied under a guru and is really on YouTube one of the most clear, interpreters of Vedanta, non-dualistic Vedanta, I think, that I've ever seen. So you're going to see a lot of his videos throughout this training program, just like you're going to see a lot of Alan Watts throughout this program when it comes to Buddhism and Taoism, because he really breaks down and explains the Hindu Vedanta philosophy extremely clearly. And on top of that, we have Buddhism. And the Buddha was an individual, someone who lived about 500 years prior to Christ, so 500 BC, about, they think, maybe. But he was an individual, he was a real person who walked the earth, and a lot of people know his story. He went out into the wilderness after studying Hinduism and philosophy and Vedanta and all of that. So Buddhism was kind of born out of the Vedanta world, okay? When Buddha became enlightened and he achieved nirvana, woke up, whatever you want to call it, then he started preaching his teachings, his doctrine of the truth, the Dharma, you know, the truth of existence. And that became so popular and resonated with so many people that Buddhism really grew. And now we see Buddhism as a world religion, just as the message of the man named Jesus grew and became Christianity. Buddhism and Christianity are two very, very big world religions. And they're both based on the philosophies, the outlooks of these two masters. Jesus would be for Christianity, and the Buddha would be for Buddhism. So if you're going to understand Eastern philosophy, you need to understand Hinduism, and then we will talk about Buddhism. So Taoism, Hinduism, and Buddhism are the three philosophies that we're going to be talking about throughout this entire program. You need to understand all three. You need to have a basic understanding of what Taoism is, where it comes from, and what are the core beliefs, opposed to this is Hinduism, it comes from India, this is Vedanta, these are the core beliefs, and this is the Buddha, this is his teachings, this is the core beliefs of Buddhism, and how each one relates to the other. And I'll tell you why I did this. The reason why I'm making you do this is so that you are educated, so that when you walk out into the world as a yoga instructor, you are not stupid. You're not a moron. You understand where the practices that you are learning to do come from. There's so many people walking around on the street who are yoga instructors, and they're teaching all this stuff, but they really don't know where it comes from, and they really don't understand the teachings. They're just mimicking or copying whatever it is that their yoga teacher told them in their yoga teacher training program. I invite you, please, study and research everything you can. You don't rely just on me to teach you how to teach yoga. Understand these things for yourself. I'm not telling you have to practice these religions. Absolutely not. You might be Catholic and you want to learn how to teach the physical yoga practice, but you don't have any desire to not be Catholic, nor do you want to take on any kind of new spiritualities. That's just fine, because the lazy monkey yoga style of what you learn to teach in a classroom doesn't require you to be join any religion, nor even tell anybody about having to be a part of any kind of philosophy or religion. But you have to understand where it all comes from, to be educated, to be empowered by these teachings. So you know them, you know. Knowledge is power. And knowledge is the ultimate power, okay? Once you have an understanding of these things, you become empowered. It empowers you as an individual to know these things. Let's see. So yes, this video was just for me to explain to you the three different philosophies that we're going to be looking into. Do not take everything really super serious, and don't try to not be attached to anything. Try to keep an open mind and allow yourself to just kind of take in and absorb the information that's coming through, so that you can think about it. The next page is going to have an introduction to Vedanta by Swami. And I recommend that you watch one video and then take a break. Think about it for a while, journal about it, and then come back and watch another video of him talking about reincarnation in Hinduism. What does that mean? Journal about it, write it down, and just start taking in this wisdom, this knowledge that's thousands and thousands of years old and verified by millions of practitioners all over the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, okay? So these concepts that I'm introducing to you in the Lazy Monkey Yoga program, they're not new age beliefs. These are teachings that have been taught for 6,000 to 10,000 years and recorded over the past 5,000 years, okay, in sacred text. And rehearsed and practiced and performed and executed by highly enlightened individuals. And these teachings are the teachings that we hold on to be true. We hold them on to be true because we recognize these people as highly elevated, and then we say, well, we're going to take what they taught us, and now we're going to do it ourselves, and we're going to verify what those people said were true, okay? And that is how you're going to go about this program. Nothing about this program is woo-woo. There's no woo-woo, no new age stuff in this program. All of this stuff is traditional. It comes from Taoist classical philosophy, Hinduism, specifically the Vedanta philosophy, and it comes from Buddha, from Buddhism, and specifically from Japanese medieval Buddhist philosophy. So we're going to get into all of that. And we have all the time in the world to cover all of these topics. If you open up your manual, you go through your manual, you'll see that there are portions on philosophy talking about Hinduism, Taoism, and Buddhism. You can read those things if you want, but they're not necessary right now. And like I said, you can read all of the books that you want to right now, or you can wait. So let's keep going, go to the next lesson, and let's start breaking down a little bit of Hinduism and a little bit of Vedanta.